What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J-Monster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got a 2 versus 2 played on 0.96.1, this being the current released version of the mod. And this replay was sent in to me by the dwarf player, which you see before you, that being JD Toma 1994. So I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to him for supporting the channel. Thank you so much. Also, I would like to mention that many of the players that you're going to see in this video are quite new. So, to them as well, welcome to the community. I hope you're enjoying the mod so far. But in any case, let's move on now, take a look at the army comps here, and then we can jump into the replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. The first army we're going to start with today is naturally that of the Dwarves of Erebor. He has brought some Ironfoot Warriors, all with armor upgrades. I think he's got about 4 units of the Ironfoot Warriors. A couple units of Crossbowmen out in front here. Nice little AP mid-range punch. And supporting his crossbows, he's got a ton of Ironfoot Halberds, at least 2 units I would say there, and 1 or 2 units of the Ironfoot Pikes as well. So a very formidable front line, one that mixes a little bit of both from the polearm units that the the Erebor dwarves can bring to bear. And behind them, unit here of the Axe Guard of Erebor, a little bit of extra AP as well. Erebor Legionaries, 1-2 units of them. Oh, a second company here of the Axe Guard of Erebor. And then, the centerpiece of his army, Highborns of Erebor, which should honestly just be Highborn. Yeah. Just mental note. Fix that later, because I've seen it twice now, and it makes my eye twitch a little bit every time. But out in front of that unit, I should say, is a unit of the Dwarven Catapult, which, if you guys are not familiar with the mod, just joining us for the first time, is a lovely tool to use. Ah, it's hilarious. It generally does, I've found it does a little bit less damage. But it does scatter 3 shots instead of 1, which can be excellent for disruption, especially if you're using it to maybe get the drop on somebody who's not familiar with the tool. Then it can sometimes cause panic and cause them to make mistakes. So it's a very effective terror weapon, shall we say. Let's move on now to his ally. We have Forever Alone playing as Harad. He's brought a unit here of Mumakil, which maybe is his general. Not too sure. He's also got a large number of Muhad Berserkers. Yeah, this looks like a rush army to me. At least 3 units of the Muhad Berserkers. Got some Muhad Warriors mixed in with some Serpent Guard who have an armor upgrade. And I'm a little bit uncertain about the fate of this armor upgrade. Some people like it, some people don't. But I know that Harad is going to be getting some new units, or not new units, new skins and models and stuff in 0.97, courtesy of our very talented Cowering Coma. So, remains to be seen if you'll see them sporting this glorious black and crimson. And behind them, more Muhad Berserkers, more dismounted Serpent Guard, a singular company of Serpent Guard, which actually is going to be where the general's hanging out. Look at him. He's so beautiful. Moving on over here, more Muhad Berserkers, a little bit of lag. Some Serpent Guard, looks like he ran out of money for an additional armor upgrade. Haradrim Spearmen, at least 2 companies of them. Got some Muhad Beast Tamers out front. 1, 2, 3, possibly even 4 companies of the Muhad Beast Tamers, hard to tell. And another company here of the Haradrim Spearmen. I don't think there's any hidden units on this side, so without any further delay, let's go and see what the red team has brought to the battle today. Across the field from the Haradrim, we have the forces of Imladris being commanded by Don Talion. He's got a couple companies of the Eldar Quinga, 1 company of the Eldarinwi Heru Quinga, 2 companies of Norityrno Warriors, and then a front line consisting of 3 companies of Imladris Guardians, all of whom do not have their armor upgrade today, so no shiny silver armor for you. And then his, kind of the main body of his infantry consists of a lot of specialists. So he's got some Gwythiar Arthand here, nice support bodyguard, 2 companies of the Imladris Blade Masters, 1 unit of Imladris Sentries, which is, you know, it's something you can do. You don't necessarily have to bring both of them. If you just needed 1 company to anchor a particular portion of your line, you think you can get away with it? Well, you can, because they're a really strong unit, and they can kind of fight as if they are like 2 or 3 companies of regular pikemen. And then finally, the general's bodyguard is going to consist of a single company of the Gwythi Mirdain, which you can see the general chilling there in his glorious golden armor. Moving on now to his ally, we have the forces of Umbar being commanded by Stallion 24. He's brought 1 company, no, yes, 1 company of the Mercenary Cavalry, 1 company of the Númenórean Lancers. I think he's got some, whatchamacallums, the Warlords around here somewhere. Oh, another company of Mercenary Cavalry hanging out with the Warlords on the other side. Ooh, lag, sorry about that, guys. Out in front for his skirmish line, he's got some Corsair Archers, 1, 2, and 1, company of the Belgier Archers, who do not have their armor upgrade by the looks of things. The main body of his infantry consists of some Belgier footmen, one here, one on the other wing. He's also got some Corsair pikemen, nice cheap effective front line, and the Casimir's Legion. I love the Casimir's Legion, they are absolutely boss. A lot of melee defense on these guys, a little bit lower armor than certainly a lot of units in the game, and their shield value is certainly one of their lowest defensive stats. That being said, I think it's like 5 or 6 or something like that. So a little bit more vulnerable to missile fire, but once you get them into close quarters, there is no finer regiment of human warriors. And then another company here of the Corsair pikemen, that's sort of pale in comparison. How do you really follow the show that is the Casimir's Legion? You can't. Got some Belgier halberds back here as well. And I know... Where are they? He's got a company of the Royal Guard somewhere. Where could they possibly be hiding? Ah, yes, here they are. One unit of the Narnar Royal Guard, who actually give a little bit of morale to units nearby, so a very useful unit to have indeed. That's going to do it for the army comps. Let's go ahead and jump into this battle. And as expected, the Haradrim are going to rush forward and try and get into close quarters as quickly as possible with their extensive lineup of purely melee troops. It's a bit of a risky thing to do, especially against factions like Imladris, for example, who could potentially bring some really deadly cavalry. But that's not going to be a problem today for the Haradrim, so they're going to be able to move forward pretty well unharassed. And I have to say, let me just slow this down a little bit here, whether or not the Haradrim player is intending to do this or not. This is actually really clever. So what he's doing is he's moving forward with one of the biggest and most conspicuous threats on the battlefield. And if you take a look here, the entire Elven skirmish line is going to focus down on those big, ugly elephants barreling towards Dantalian's lines. And the Haradrim, pretty well notoriously lightly armored, but that's going to take the pressure off the rest of his army. And of course, it does weaken the Momakill a little bit, and they're an expensive unit. But I would say that the rest of his army is probably a bigger threat than a singular unit of Momakill. So look at this whole Elven skirmish line focusing in on a big conspicuous threat. Meanwhile, the rest of the Haradrim are going to be able to close the distance here, and I think the Imladris player realizes the kind of danger that he's in, so he's going to start to move forward with his 3 companies of Imladris Guardians as his front line, whereas the rest of these units are kind of just sitting back here. I certainly would have gone another way. You want to move in with everything in support if you can. Obviously, you want to try and leave a little bit of reserves in case something goes horribly pear-shaped, but yeah, 3 units of Imladris Guardians, they're good. But especially with the Momakill nearby, this is not a fight that these units are really capable of winning. In any case, glorious carnage across the battlefield here as the Imladris line charges forward to meet their Haradrim adversaries, and they are immediately going to find themselves swamped. So those Imladris Guardians are already in dire straits. Meanwhile, over here, got some Belgier footmen here fighting on the hill against Haradrim spearmen, but the sheer numbers, not to mention the influx of some Muhad reinforcements, are going to give them some serious trouble. Those footmen will be able to hold their ground for a little while, but meanwhile, the dwarves have closed the distance nearly with the Umbarim, and the dwarves are no joke in melee. This is going to be a clash of titans here as these 2 very infantry-focused factions square off against one another. Meanwhile, I actually really like this as well. Holding down the very, very limited forces of Imladris and going in for a big, ugly flanking movement here with the Momakill and with a lot of these armor-piercing units like the Muhad Berserkers. This is, in my opinion, the way that you need to use shock troops most of the time, not in 0.97 quite so much, since they got some nice buffs, but certainly in 0.96 you want to try and use them as a flanking force. Try and get in behind your enemies as well, is especially devastating with shock troops like this. But yeah, they need to move forward here. The Momakill have kind of flown a little bit too close to the sun here, fighting all of these elven units together. Many of them are pikes, and especially the Gwythi Arthons and those, well, the Imladris pike units. They have pretty hefty bonuses against Momakill, and that's going to be the end of the Momakill, unfortunately for them. Muhad Berserker is getting there just slightly after the Momakill have expired. I think we're going to see the inexperience of the two sides here start to take shape. Now, the Momakill are an interesting unit in that they can actually constitute an obstacle after they die with their corpses, which I believe is pretty unique as far as units go. And I don't think the Elven player realizes this, so he's funneled forward here thinking he's going to charge into the Haradrim and maybe get a nice counter charge or possibly even a surround, but it's not really going to work out so well for him. And now these units are going to be pinned against the Momikil. So if these Muhad Berserkers come around into the rear, well, these guys aren't really going to have anywhere to go. There's a lot of them packed into one tiny area. That could be the end for Dantalion if he does not get his lines in order. Meanwhile, Dwarven artillery exploding in the background. The Umbarim, this isolated company of Umbar Beligir footmen, trying to hold back the tide. Not working out so well for them. The Haradrim have come in like a wrecking ball, and the Umbarim are melting away before our eyes. Meanwhile, over here, Corsair Pikemen moving in to try and hold things down. And as long as they don't get surrounded, the range on those pikes will probably be sufficient. Although I say that, and of course the Haradrim have their own pikes in there in the form of the Muhad Beast Tamers. So actually, at second glance, I don't think this commitment is going to be quite enough. But Umbar seems to be just playing for time. In their center, they are doing extremely well against the dwarves. You can see some Beligir halberds here, enveloping at least part of the dwarven center. His Ironfoot Warriors and Axe Guard of Erebor are in for a really bad time. It looks like I actually missed a unit here, Narnar Sentinels. A strong little support unit and extremely tanky pikes. Probably one of the more tanky pikes in the game aside from the Karis Galathon Guardians. And they're really giving these dwarves the business. Dwarven artillery shells exploding overhead. Quite the spectacle. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Casimir's Legion are actually beating back the Dwarven infantry. The singular company of Erebor legionaries trying to keep the rest of the Dwarven center intact. What do we got over here? Some mercenary cavalry charging into the rear of these Erebor legionaries. They are certainly very hard pressed. However, they are locked morale. So this is going to be a fight where every last dwarf is going to need to die before Umbar can free up these forces. There is some good news for the dwarves, however. Over on their right wing, they are definitely getting the better of the Umbarim. A really nice flanking movement here by the Axe Guard of Erebor. They're going to charge into the rear of these Beligir footmen. That's going to be game over for them. And if they annihilate this company quickly, the kids move to reverse their fortunes in their center, which is going to be pretty critical at this point. So they need to move as quickly as possible, destroy those Beligir spearmen, come into their center, surround these pikes, and try and roll up the Umbarim lines. Meanwhile, Harad, elsewhere on the battlefield, has finished with most of the High Elven infantry. And you can see a lot of their units moving to disrupt the Umbar skirmish line and try and relieve a little bit of pressure on their ally, the dwarves, who are struggling in their center. Narnar Royal Guard fighting back-to-back against the Serpent Guard. The Umbarim, traditionally the vassals of the Umbarim. This is a little bit of a grudge match here. It seems like the Haradrim have had enough with being the lackeys of the Black Numenorians and are exacting great vengeance. Although the Serpent Guard, maybe they have underestimated the fighting prowess of their former masters, as the Narnar Royal Guard are standing their ground admirably well. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Muhad Beast Tamers taking on the Eldar Quinga from the front. That's going to be an easy fight for those pikemen. Ooh, what do we got over here? Mercenary Cavalry charging into the rear of the Muhad Berserkers, who are not going to take that line down. They're going to turn around and charge right back at those cavalry. That's going to hurt. Ooh, look at that. Nasty shock damage there. Also, we've got some Warlords of Umbar in there as well. That being said, the Muhad units suffered quite grievously. You can see a lot of them dead on the field there. But the Warlords and the Mercenary, especially the Mercenary Cavalry, lost about half of their unit there in that countercharge. Extremely effective. The Elves fighting back-to-back, and I don't think the Haradrim player really realized what the deal was with these Momikil bodies either. So now they're both kind of pressing themselves into the Momikil, and in the center, nothing's really happening. Although I have to wonder if the pikes have sufficient range to actually poke all the way through this body at these helpless elves who are just hemmed in around the fallen corpses of those Momikil. What we got going on in the back here? Looks like some Muhad warriors have been chasing down some fleeing companies of some fairly elite units here. Eldar Quinga, no Eternal warriors, having a good time leading these Muhad warriors on a merry chase. Even if they catch up, the Muhad warriors are going to be severely overmatched, but it is buying time for the blue team so far to do their bloody work on the main line. What we got going on here? Mercenary Cavalry charging into the rear of those Serpent Guard, and that is going to relieve the Narnar Royal Guard for the most part, down to about 21. So the Serpent Guard have taken a nice little bite out of this unit and kept them busy for quite some time. Warlords of Umbar going to charge in support of their Black Numenorian infantry brethren. And that's going to be the end of the Serpent Guard. They're going to break there and get to flee off the field. That being said, the Belgier Spearmen have just crumbled, and now the Haradrim are after those warlords and the rest of the Umbar skirmish line with a furious vengeance. A lot of actually some pike units mixed in there as well, so it's not going to be quite so easy for the Warlords of Umbar to charge those units into the dust. Over here in the center, seems like things are still not going terribly well for the dwarves, but the dwarves are holding their ground quite admirably. What do we got going on in the back here? Looks like some Numenorian Lancer units missed a little bit of what was going on. Seems like they squared off against the mercenary cavalry alongside the Ironfoot crossbowmen, who have been delayed for quite some time. Now they're being brought a little bit farther forward. 93, so this unit I think is still at full strength. This one over here is a little bit over half depleted. But still, quite a lot of crossbowmen here, and that's going to make a really big difference. Highborns of Erebor, full strength now, joining the fray. And still that Dwarven catapult rains down fire upon the Umbarim. And over here, it seems like it's anybody's game, really, although with all those pikemen and now some Corsair Archer reinforcements, things could turn around pretty quickly. Meanwhile, out here on the wing, that's some mercenary cavalry, heavily outnumbered mercenary cavalry, facing off against some of the Serpent Guard. Normally, this is a fight that melee cavalry would win with no problem, but the Serpent Guard outnumbering them, surrounding them. The mercenary cavalry don't really have the greatest morale, being mercenary units. They won't be able to stand and fight for too much longer, but normally you wouldn't really want to leave your Lancer companies in close quarters against melee cavalry like this for too long. You can see the toll that they took. Despite being outnumbered, those I think they cut down about like 8 or so. So quite impressive showing there for the mercenary cavalry, but they are now gone, and that's going to leave the rear of these Corsair units extremely vulnerable to a devastating charge by those very swift Lancers. Still a lot of Serpent Guard left. That's pretty ugly. I think we might start to see things turn around in Umbar. They've done very well so far, but now the Serpent Guard are free to do their bloody work. We can already see them coming in, so we'll slow things down just a little bit so we don't miss it. And the Highborn of Erebor have arrived at the opportune moment. Now the Norinara Sentinels are being pressured mightily by not just the dwarves, but also some Haradrim reinforcements here as well. That being said, Royal Guard lending what aid they can, and it seems like the rest of the Haradrim have been cleared out in the center here. A big chunk of them routing off now. Corsair Archers reigning supreme. Warlords of Umbar still on the field. Ooh, let's get over here and enjoy this juicy charge. Well, that's pretty well going to collapse that Umbar wing. That's most of the reinforcements cut down in just a matter of moments here by a devastating rear charge from the swift Serpent Guard. Yeah, things are starting to fall apart here for Umbar. Even over in the center, it says victory is certain, but honestly, the Highborn of Erebor crushing the rear of the flank, I should say, and rear of the Norinara Sentinels, I think is going to be enough to. It'll be the straw that breaks the camel's back, shall we say. Let's see what we got going on over here. Ironfoot Pikes, they need to get in there and try and support the Serpent Guard, who are taking charge after charge from the Warlords of Umbar. Ooh, but now we have some crossbows nearby. I think the Warlords of Umbar's days are certainly numbered. Over here, Corsair Archers trying to do what they can, but against the heavily armored dwarves, it's not going to be the most effective. It looks like the Muhan Warriors have found their courage. Now they're going to charge into those Corsair Archers. It's really hard to tell. These guys, exhausted, suffering from low morale. Corsair Archers are not terrible in melee. Not exactly well armored, but they have good melee skill and decent damage. Might be enough to push back these Muhad Warriors, and indeed it seems to be the case. Let's see what's going on over here. They also have been hemmed in, but they are holding their ground well. Although that being said, casualties are extremely high on both sides. And this has kept a lot of Elven reinforcements that could have been useful elsewhere on the battlefield well and truly occupied for most of the critical stages of this 2v2. That being said, I think they're going to emerge from this victorious. Remains to be seen how many of them come out, but you know, a lot of them could be hidden by those corpses. And if the elves have a strong body of infantry, they certainly have a ton of skirmishers still left over. That could be a problem for the battered remnants of the Dwarven army, because I don't think there's really a lot left from the Haradrim. Well, these Muhad Warriors here and the company of Serpent Guard are now charging into the rear of those Norinara Sentinels, trying to free up the Dwarven infantry for this critical final showdown with the elves. And that's pretty well it. Ooh, beautiful charge there into what remains of the Narnar Royal Guard. Knocking down what appears to be the general. This would be Castamir himself. Definitely not going to want to stay in close quarters with him for too much longer. I think the next obvious target would probably be the Corsair Archers before they shoot this poor Serpent Guard to death. Ooh, another shot from the Dwarven Catapult. Where is it going? Ooh, we're going to get some nasty friendly fire there. It is going to hit some of the elves, but it's also going to hit the Haradrim. Well, let's see if they'll stand and fight. Nope, it doesn't look like it. Exhausted, outnumbered, and unfortunately for them, betrayed by their ally, the dwarves. They're going to break and flee en masse. Well, that's going to be the end of the Haradrim, except for that one little tiny company of Serpent Guard over there, down to now 10 units. Let's take a look at how the fight's going for the dwarves. Still a lot of crossbows. Still have an artillery piece. Let's take a look at the percentages. Very, very close indeed. And the blue team is actually down a little bit by about 3%. Nothing insurmountable, but at this late stage of the game, every percentage point counts. Ooh, Eldar Quingo. Wonder what they're after. Oh, I see. Going after the catapult. The catapult is probably the least of their worries. If I'm being perfectly honest, his Ironfoot Pikes here, and the Halberds probably be my choice of target. Ooh, Corsair Archers raining down death upon the advancing dwarves who are just coming forward in this disorganized blob. They're going to be easy prey for the Elven Archers if they can get themselves forward enough to rain death down upon their foes. Archino Warriors, how are they doing over here? What is this? Is it actually attacking? But it's broken. It's reforming. I am well and truly confused by this. Oh my god. This Momakill just thinning out the Elven reserves. I don't think the Elven player really expected this. I certainly wouldn't have seen this coming. It's a lot of dead elves. Look at that. Look at the damage that they've done. That's an incredible amount of Heroquinga. Wow. It's like half the unit right there, dead. To a routing Momakill. Wow. Didn't see that coming. But let's see what's going on. Corsair Archers falling back, try and regroup with their allies. Meanwhile, the dwarves, what are the dwarves doing? They've regrouped with the rest of their army. Their allies are still on the field. Three Serpent Guardsmen trying to deal with the Ombard General, who, being the general of a spear unit, actually has a pretty significant bonus versus cavalry. So that's a tough thing. That's a pretty tall order for the Serpent Guard, even when there were 15 of them. Oh, this guy's just taking it. Castamir's not going to go down without a fight. Those are crossbow bolts, though. We'll stand up to that for too much longer. Eldar Quinga trying to assassinate the Haradrim General. It's going pretty well for them so far, down to 2 Serpent Guard. And the dwarves holding back. Not sure what they're doing. Gonna give the elves an opportunity to consolidate their forces if they are so inclined. It doesn't seem to be like they are. Oh, look at this guy. I know this is a bit of a distraction, but he's like soloing that Momakill that just slaughtered at least 100 of his brethren. Is he gonna do it? I need to know. I don't think anything else is going on in the battlefield, so we can actually sit here and watch this. Is he gonna be able to take down this Momakill, or is it gonna come back to its senses and stomp him into the dirt like the insignificant ant that he is? He's not doing too bad. Momakill doesn't know what's going on. We'll come back to that. It seems like the Elven player is in the process of disentangling himself from the wreckage of that Momakill unit. The elves are fanning out a little bit. It might be that they try to surround the dwarves and just batter them into submission with extended volleys of missiles. Oh. Just Blade Masters coming over here as well. I think they have a small bonus versus elephants and other types of cavalry. And there it goes. Oh, I didn't know it knocked them over when it fell down. That's pretty cool. Is he gonna get up? Oh, he's like pinned under there. No. No, he's fine. Just walk it off. The Slayer of Mumikil. That's lone Goldelim Idehour guardsman. That was cool. So I think we're gonna have a little bit of a showdown here for a while. So I'm gonna make a cut here. I'm gonna fast forward a few minutes, and I will see you guys shortly. All right, and here we are. It looks like the elves are completely out of ammunition, and they're going to advance forward with furious, deadly intent. The dwarves have fallen back here, taking up position, slightly elevated position, not exactly a gigantic hill that they're sitting on top of. Crossbowmen out in front, gonna rain down hell upon the advancing elven column. Certainly want to try and spread their units out a little bit more. Hindsight being 20/20, but that's generally good practice, and something that as new players I suggest that you try and get into is to spread your units out, especially when you're facing missile fire from crossbows. It will greatly reduce the amount of casualties that you take. Dwarves of Erebor trying to fall back with their crossbowmen, but they are actually going to get caught up here in the charge of the elven infantry. Most of the unit, however, is going to manage to scoot back behind their infantry lineup as many of the tired dwarves begin to move forward. This is going to be an interesting fight. The dwarves they certainly have better positioning, I would say, than the elves, who are very much in danger of being surrounded right now. But they are significantly more tired. A lot of these elven units are fresh. Yeah, they're like totally fresh. They are ready to do this, but the positioning might be what undoes them here. That and they're still waiting on some reinforcements. We got Axguard of Erebor. Looked like they're moving to check the advance on the Imladra sentries. What do we got in the back here? Eldarinwe, Haruquinga moving in against the Ironfoot crossbowmen just to try and keep them down so they don't fire into this blob of elven infantry. Ooh, Dwarven player, really nice move here by JD Toma. Going for a beautiful surround. Rear charge here by the Axguard of Erebor. And the Eldar are starting to lose ground. That being said, they do have some reinforcements here. Imladra sentries gonna poke the Axguard of Erebor to death. I would honestly give this fight to the Imladra sentries. I mean, it says that they're going to lose here, but honestly, the range on the sentries is gonna be what tells. Especially with the I believe that exhausted units, in addition to morale penalties, they also take melee defense penalties, and the Axguard of Erebor, being axes, are a little bit lower on that generally. So, yeah, I would certainly give this to the sentries. What do we got here? Imladra's Blade Masters charging forward against the Ironfoot crossbowmen. This Ironfoot unit over here. Looks like they were... I think they were trying to shoot at the... Ooh, a little bit of lag there. Trying to shoot at the Blade Masters as they advance. But now they've switched their attention to these Nora Eternal Warriors who are just being executed at close range. Oh, Dwarven firing squad. Putting two in their chest and down they go. That's going to be the end of that flanking movement. The elves really not having a good time here, surrounded by those heavy-hitting Dwarven infantry. Their formation left much to be desired. They certainly could have used some of their more deadly units in the center to hold the line, and then flanked with some of their units of lesser quality. Was a bit of a staggered advance as well. You can still see their ally back there who didn't advance with them. There was some of their pikemen and their blade masters that are being missed from this fight that didn't advance with the rest of the army. Just seems like a bit of a mess for the elves overall. I think this is going to be a bit closer than it was, but it seems like the dwarves, just straight up due to superior tactics, are going to be able to take this fight. What are we at? 95 to 92. That being said, I don't really think you can call this a victory. Not much of an army left on any side. Ooh, Imladra's Blade Masters, are they going to get in there before the Ironfoot crossbowmen have a chance to fire on them? Oh yeah, I think they might. It's going to be close. A point-blank volley would absolutely devastate the Imladra's Blade Masters, but they are going to get in there and silence those Dwarven crossbows. Good night, sweet prince. You can already see the dwarves getting swept off their feet and hacked to bits by these elite Imladris warriors. Well, over here, Corsair Archers coming to the aid of their allies, but I think it is too little too late. Most of that really strong Elven Infantry Corps has disappeared, and I think the Corsair Archers would have made a nice supporting unit, but they're not going to be able to be a workhorse. And there goes the Elven General, getting chopped down from behind by one of the elite Highborn of Erebor. Yeah, the sentries, not doing too bad. Did they manage to kill all the Axemen? Indeed they did. They're doing pretty well here. You can see these exhausted dwarves. If the dwarves don't get their ducks in a row and try to surround them, yeah, even 17 sentries could make their presence felt against this large mass, well, quote-unquote large for this stage of the battle, mass of dwarven infantry. Also, it feels strange to call the dwarves large in any sort of case, but Axguard of not the Axguard, the Highborns of Erebor closing the distance with the enlarger sentries, using their mass and possibly a shield wall. No, they're not close enough for a shield wall, but eliminating the range advantage of those enlarger sentries. Now you can see them begin to fall. What do we got? 94 to 97. A devastating battle for both sides. It was just fought everywhere. A real pleasure to watch. Well, back here, Enlarger's Blade Masters beginning to expire, but with the addition of the Corsair Archers, it seems like it's beginning to tell against the Ironfoot Crossbowmen. They are fairly able in melee, but yeah, even against a small number of Enlarger's Blade Masters who specialize in close quarters, the Ironfoot Crossbowmen are sorely outmatched. They're beginning to lose ground. But, of course, as I say that, the last of the elves has fallen, and now Castamir is back. He was getting this guy's been charged down by cavalry, filled full of crossbow bolts, and he has just not given up. He's actually holding up this entire Dwarven infantry blob. I imagine the Dwarven players feel a little bit confident at this point, so he doesn't mind just dogpiling in against this single unit, a single individual, rather, of Umbarum Royal Guard. And there goes Castamir. His 9 lives are up. And now the Corsair Archers and the Enlarger's Blade Masters are all that stands remaining of the red team. Let's go ahead and turn it up to 2 times speed. Looks like they're going to finish off the Ironfoot Crossbowmen. That's going to bring us to 98 to 95. Corsair Archers getting hit in the rear by that blob of Dwarven infantry. It's going to be ugly for them. Yeah, this is not a fight the red team is going to be able to win, but a very good fight nonetheless. Of course, obviously there was a lot of mistakes made. These are newer players, but it just seemed like good, honest fun, and I really had a lot of got a lot of enjoyment out of watching it. So, thank you so much to JD Tomoff for sending this in to me. It was a great find. Thank you so much. Enlarger's Blade Masters counterattacking with everything that they got. The Corsair Archers not going to be able to hold their ground. And now it's down to the Blade Masters. What do we got here? I think it's like 8. A little bit more than 8. I think there's 2 companies in there, so it's like 11 Blade Masters versus everything the dwarves have left. They're doing pretty well. Gotta hand it to them. Dwarves are going to pull through, however, and that is going to ruin the integrity of the Imladris formation. And they're going to find themselves surrounded and suffer casualties very, very quickly. Ooh, might see some routing. Maybe the Imladris Blade Masters will hold their ground and fight to the end. Seems like. But this is like, the Haradrim are gone. This is all that remains of the Dwarven army. It's like 30 or so people trapped in a desert. I would certainly not call this a victory by any means, even if they did kill all of the enemy. Where are they going to go? I think they're just going to bake to death out here in the sun and leave a feast for the crows, but technically, they are the victors. And those Imladris Blade Masters getting pummeled. The last man standing. See how he does, and he goes down. And that's going to be it. Let's see some of the casualties inflicted here. 170 by the Highborn of Erebor. Yeah, once they got added to the center, it was good night for Umbar. That one unit of Narnar Sentinels was holding their ground admirably well. They just cut down dwarves left and right. But once those Highborn of Erebor came in and started squeezing them between the remains of the Dwarven infantry, that was pretty well game over. Umbar lost on their wing. They had nothing left. Everything was committed in their center and on their right wing as opposed to their left. And yeah, they just couldn't stop that Dwarven steamroller. It just rolled up their lines, and that was it. Ironfoot Warriors did okay. Some of them did okay. The one that got 128 certainly made up for the one that got 14 now, let's be honest. Axguard of Erebor, at least one company of them was used extremely well. I was very impressed by that. Erebor Legionaries, a lot of kills there. Ironfoot Crossbowmen certainly held their own in this. And the Catapult got 104 kills. I wonder how much of that is friendly fire. I wonder if friendly fire kills are actually counted in this, because they certainly killed a lot of our Rodrim, in addition to the Elves and the Umbarum. But yeah, that's going to do for the battle. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again to JD Toma for sending in the replay. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.